The case of the Phoenix Lights began on an evening in March of 1997.
Late breaking. You're watching News 15 at 10.
Do these lights belong to visitors from outer space? Hundreds of people across the valley think it's a distinct possibility. Good evening, I'm Mark Bailey.
And I'm Robin Sewell. Thanks for joining us. We start tonight with those strange dots of light that were the talk of the town.
As reported, multiple UFOs were sighted throughout the Phoenix Basin. Numerous eyewitnesses were already outside looking up into the night sky to catch a glimpse of the Hale-Bopp comet.
Yeah, everybody was excited about the comet. But in the middle of that, these very mysterious lights appeared over Phoenix, over Maricopa County.
Michael Tanner is part of a team of investigators who received roughly 800 reports from eyewitnesses regarding the Phoenix incident.
Between 8:15 and 8:45, we had enormous craft at varying altitudes come right through the center of the Valley of Phoenix, led by a formation of orbs that were clearly visible through most of the state.
It passed right in front of us, just about right above eye's length. My estimate of the size of the craft from the nose as it passed us where we lived to the end of the left wing that passed in front of us was over 5,000 foot long.
It's coming across the sky, and as it's moving, it's blocking and unblocking the stars. There is actually a shape.
It was actually 5 lights that were a V, 1 in front and 2 on each side, and it was perfect. It was a perfect triangle.
The object we saw, if we opened up a newspaper, you could not block out the object that we saw.
People say, Mike, now you saw a B-2 bomber. My response was we could land all 40 of our B-2 bombers on the wing of that craft.
If you can picture Camelback Mountain, a well-known landmark in Phoenix, something about 4 times that size, levitating down the road with lights on it, that'll give you an idea of what this was like.
He says, "You're not going to believe what I saw." And I said, "Yes, I would." I said, "That's all that's been on the news all night long is this craft."
The community got pretty excited about it. There was a lot of press and borderline hysteria almost.
Explanations have been tossed about that they were flares, that there were planes flying in formation. But Mark and Robin, we checked with the FAA today, we checked with Sky Harbor, and we checked with Luke Air Force Base, and there's been no official explanation of those strange bright lights last night.
Truck driver Bill Greiner was driving south on I-17 towards Luke Air Force Base. He witnessed several fighter jets scramble to intercept 2 UFOs directly overhead.
I pulled my truck alongside the West Silos, which faces Luke Air Force's base, was like right there, and I was here unloading. Everything was completely quiet. It was like really eerie. There was one right over the base, and then there was another one out toward Wickenburg, and these things were just hovering. They were huge orbs, but it didn't make no sound or nothing. It was just hovering right there over the base. All of a sudden, I hear a lot of roaring coming out of Luke Air Force Base, and here there's 2 fighters coming out, and they had the afterburners on because there were huge flames coming out the back of these things. Ripped right around the back of me and shot right for those things. Then it disappeared on them, and it was just gone.
The military says the lights over Arizona last night were flares, but the people who saw the lights last night say they couldn't have been flares.
In central Phoenix, in what is known as the Sunny Slope area, the Lay family were coming home in the early evening to watch for the Hale-Bopp comet when they witnessed a very large craft fly directly over their house.
You know, because when the craft went over, I really focused on the light.
The tip was right out in the street, and the arm is going by, and the end of the arm was at least to that mountain over there. It was 600-700 feet away with these huge lights set inside of it.
And I look inside, and it's like, it's wavy. When you look down the street on a hot day in Phoenix, above the street's like, it's really wavy, and you see everything kind of distorted, and that's what it looked like up inside the middle of the craft.
And it just skimmed by, didn't even make a sound, not even a sound.
Further eyewitness testimony came from Stacy Rhodes and her daughter Emily, who both saw a giant craft fly over their car.
It was gunmetal black. It wasn't shiny, it wasn't invisible, it was more of a dull bluish black color.
And we both just stayed there and looked at it for a couple minutes, and it was completely silent.
Mike Fortson spotted the same craft from his backyard in Chandler, a suburb of Phoenix.
When you're looking to the north towards Phoenix proper, the lights of the city of Phoenix and Tempe and Scottsdale and all these here will form a gray background. And this was a black object coming through a gray background. We had no problem whatsoever seeing this vehicle. We knew it wasn't really ours because it was just too doggone big. Matter of fact, profoundly massive is a better way to describe it. We don't really have words in our language to describe something that large. It was huge.
Councilwoman Frances Barwood was approached by a reporter who complained about the lack of response from local government regarding the sightings.
What this reporter said was that they had gone to every level of government, including the city of Phoenix, and nobody would talk to them. That this object went from north of Prescott, from Paulden, all the way down to Tucson, and then was also seen in Wickenburg. And nobody would give them any answer. They either told them that they were not going to talk about it at all, or that there was nothing, that nothing happened.
Responding to mounting pressure from his constituents, Governor Fife Symington held a press conference.
Oh, I'm going to order a full, investigation of this through DPS. We're going to make all the necessary inquiries, and we're going to get to the bottom of it. We're going to find out if it was a UFO.
Later that day, Governor Symington held an unscheduled live press conference to announce that they had discovered the source behind the Phoenix lights.
Now I'll ask Officer Stein and his colleagues to escort the accused into the room so that we may all look upon the guilty party. Now, this just goes to show that you guys are entirely too serious.
Well, I think everybody pretty much laughed at it. I thought it was really disgusting. He was just dismissing everything that these people had seen and said, just like we're all Looney Tunes. I just thought that was a really improper attitude for somebody in his position.
Nobody in state, local, federal, military, nobody wanted to talk about it. They didn't want to interview witnesses. They said it didn't happen. They said it didn't concern them. There was one councilwoman, Frances Barwood. She's the one that spoke up and said, why don't we investigate? And then when it came time for her election, she lost. And the press, the media, everybody else was really trashing her bad.
Why is everybody so afraid? And the only thing I can think of is, one, they're afraid of their careers, which, comes to a point of what's more important, your soul or your job, and I guess to them it's their job. And the second thing is the scorn factor.
In 2006, we caught up with Governor Fife Symington to find out what really happened and whether he believed the military's explanation that the Phoenix lights were just flares.
I was never satisfied with the explanation that they were high-altitude flares. It didn't look like that. It was all too symmetrical. I mean, it clearly had a shape to it, and a big shape, and it was a constant shape. And you can't control flares that way. There's just no way they were flares.
We also asked him what he wanted to accomplish with his alien stunt at the press conference.
The hysteria that was building with Frances Barwood on the city council and some others, that I thought it was just, they were just getting too, overboard about it. I mean, it was unbelievable, the hysteria that was building, and I just felt that there was a need for some levity, and we were known once in a while to pull a prank. And I dressed my chief of staff up as a Martian. We let him in this Martian costume and handcuffs with the Department of Public Safety police officers, and it was just hilarious, and it was just a total meltdown at the press conference. So it was a spoof.
And now I'll ask Officer Stein and his colleagues to escort the accused into the room so that we may all look upon the guilty party. Don't get him too close to me, please.
We confronted him with a tape recording from one of his many constituents who failed to find the humor in this staged event.
It's been a long time since I've been put on the spot on TV.
Okay. Is this still a matter of ridicule to him after he came out on TV with his alien, making us all look a little foolish? We've all remained unwavering on our descriptions. A lot of evidence has been provided since then, and I'm wondering if he still feels this is a matter of ridicule or if he has taken a new stance on this.
Well, that's a good question. And of course, as I said earlier, I never felt that the overall situation was a matter of ridicule. We certainly took advantage of it.
And this just goes to show that you guys are entirely too serious.
Yeah, you know, if I had to do it all over again, I probably would have handled it differently. But at least I have the opportunity now to correct the record, and that's important.
In correcting the record, he told us what he would say now.
I would say that at that time in over Phoenix, we all experienced a very exciting sighting of some kind of a craft of unknown origin. Nobody's ever been able to explain it, and that it was, most of us feel that it was definitely, you know, of alien origin, enormous, inexplicable, probably one of the major sightings in, you know, in modern history in the country, because a lot of people saw it in Maricopa County, and I saw it too. And we never got to the bottom of it. We never found out what, you know, what they were.